Fantastic. Okay, so we are live, and I'm Lisa Kastner. I am here with another Run Wild with Us, Ask Us Anything. And I'm here on Thursdays between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time to answer any old questions that you may have around publishing, creative writing, whatever you want. It's all good. And typically I'm here with some of our amazing editors. I do know that today Peter Wright will be unable to join us, which is all good. No worries. But in the meantime, sorry, we were gonna be live streaming on Instagram, and it looks like the connection's having some challenges today. So we'll just do it again next week. It's not a big deal. Anyway, we're going to go live against Instagram and TikTok. But like I said, we'll just, we'll try those babies out again next week. Anyway, it is fantastic to see you guys. As I said, we're here to answer any questions that you may have. So if you do have a question, all you have to do is go ahead, pop that question into the comments section, and I will repeat said question and then respond to it. So, and that's how we handle it all the friggin' time. We usually take turns in responding to any questions that you may have. Now, if you're watching this and it is not Thursday between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time or 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, it's not a big deal. All you got to do, go ahead, pop your question into the comments section, and we will respond in the subsequent week. So I already see Caroline, CJ, Margaret are all saying howdy. Howdy, howdy, howdy. It is fabulous to see you guys. You're all absolutely amazing. Thank you again for joining us. Caroline asks, tell us about your week, Lisa. Yeah, sure. So this week was really super eventful. I actually, I wrote a book proposal for a self-help book on called Don't Be a Zombie, How to Regain Your Dreams. And it's basically taking a lot of my own personal lessons through my X number of years alive and how I overcame various challenges throughout my life. And I basically give the readers a format for you to do the same. And Caroline, thank you for asking about this. I'm actually going to start a live stream based on Don't Be a Zombie. I believe I'm going to start doing it on Mondays, probably around 4 or 5 p.m. Pacific time. It's going to be a lot much briefer than this thing. I'm only going to focus on like one segment of the self-help book, so that you guys can take it, run with it during the course of the week, and like totally have a blast. So, hey, Ben, how are you doing, young man?
I heard you about yourself, so I came running.
Oh, well, thank you. It's always nice to have not be the only one blathering on and on during.
Even if it is me, here I am.
Yeah, woohoo! So Caroline's asking us, how's our week? So how's your week been, young man?
Oh, it's been busy.
Oh, yeah? What have you been up to?
Yeah. Wretched. My novel, Wretched.
You do realize that just sounded wrong, right?
Yeah, it's Wretched.
I've been up to Wretched.
It's coming together nicely, though.
Yeah.
We've got about 130 pages to go for the first time through, which sounds like a lot, but we started off with like 560, so we're plowing through.
There you go, man. There you go.
The author's doing good work.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
the short stories. I need to reach out to my authors. They've heard from me, but I haven't heard from them.
Well, and they're messaging me, and I'm like, I think you need to talk to Ben.
Yeah, I should probably send out an update to all of them.
I think they would appreciate that.
Yeah, I usually do anyway. I don't know, I'm just behind.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're usually really good about that.
Yeah. And then I picked up 2 today, 2 more. I talked to Chris about the short stories. And we're all set.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then Cody gave me one.
Oh, did he now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he forwarded me an email. I haven't looked at it yet. So, okay.
Yeah. It's a book of poetry.
Oh, okay, cool.
So he's gonna hand it off, and I've read it. It's some good work.
All right. So, I mean, you're the man to do it, so I'm just saying, among all of us, you're the one who's a true poet. The rest of us are just pretending. So we just sit here and nod and go, "Damn, that's good," because we don't know any better. So
A Zoom call. I like to hear the poet read their work, so I know the specific cadence, because it changes.
Ooh, yeah. No, that's true. Oh, that's smart. That's a great idea.
A lot of times you don't like poetry because you don't know how to read it. But if you hear it, you say, "Oh, that makes a lot more sense. I like that."
No, it's my favorite.
Yeah. I'll never read those again.
Oh my goodness. I kind of love that a lot. Well, we also this week we posted 2 new jobs. One of them is a storyteller's marketing lead, and another is a story licensing lead. So we've gotten some amazing applications, and I'm really, really looking forward to talking to these guys over the next couple weeks. So I'm really excited about that. And I still have 3 anthologies and 2 books, 2 novels. And I keep getting sidetracked because during the week I get hit with all these like requests and what's going on with blah blah blah, and so it's typically stuff that I have to like take care of now. So and then the next thing I know, it's like 9-10 o'clock at night, and I'm tired, and I'm just like, well, not doing that right now.
That was a good day.
Yep. But we got a lot done, so it's all good, man. Right? So Caroline's asking though, Ben, what's Wretched about?
Wretched? It's about it's actually 3 storylines that are interwoven into one.
Oh, cool.
Kind of a family history. You call it a family history. You can call it a World War II survivor story. You can call it a indigenous perspective story.
Oh, interesting.
That's some good stuff there too. And then just some family history from Canada. It's set in Canada. It's set in Brussels, and how they come together and throughout history, how it weaves together.
Very nice.
Yeah, very, very. Of course, you've got to keep the story flowing with it, and the headings do that though. It's good. It's definitely the 3 lines. Let's call it four strands that are braided together very nicely.
Very nice. Very, very nice. Yeah. Caroline's asking, what's the time frame? Over how long? Like,
It starts in it doesn't start there. It touches on indigenous Canada before the Europeans arrive. And it comes up to present day. So and then, of course the family history is Canadian family history, but there's also a branch of that family tree. And that's what's happening in the present day. The narrator for that section is charting out a family tree that one side she knows a lot about, one side she doesn't. And so it adds some not mystery, but some surprises, I guess, some revelations.
Ah, cool.
And so it's pre-indigenous or indigenous pre-colonial times in Canada all the way up through present time, with a good stopover in World War II Brussels.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's been good. It's just well, a lot of stuff has gotten in the way, but seems to be flowing now. Knock on something solid.
Yep, got it. That's awesome. That sounds like it sounds like a lot of fun. Looking forward to that one. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, one of my sidetracks this week and last week, I guess, is at first we thought we needed to have our roof repaired, and it turns out that whoever redid our roof before we moved into this house over 10 years ago, they did not do the under plywood to code. So instead of doing it like, brick style, they piled it like one on top of the other. So the LA City refuses to approve. So it went from being like a $35,000 roof job to like a $65,000 roof job. So I am now in the middle of trying to find like, can I get like I don't know, some kind of help from the city, because our insurance company will not. They're like, that's a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
So they won't touch it. So now it's like we're just going all over the place to see if we can find some kind of assistance.
Yeah.
But so I technically don't have a roof right now. They took off all the tile, and they took off some of the under plywood, and but they were kind enough to cover it with plastic, because there's a massive storm coming this weekend. So if anybody reaches out to me over the weekend and I sound slightly tipsy, it's probably because I'm trying to keep from having a panic attack, since I have no roof, I've got no under part, and we're about to get hit. Hopefully, it's not a hurricane. So so this will be interesting. Oh, and I still don't have a living room because the insurance company refuses to cover the living room floor. They covered everything else. So now we're just down to the floor, that half of it got ripped up in preparation to be repaired. And the insurance company is now saying that they don't, that's not their problem. So so now my husband and I are just like piggybacking with reaching out to, the construction company and the insurance company, and just, anybody who'll listen to us. And I'm like, I just want my house back. Like, I just want my house in one piece. So can we stop doing this game of no and actually, do what you're supposed to do? But yeah. So, but yeah, thank you, Caroline. Yeah, we'll do our best to not give up on assistance. And I'm just thankful I have dear friends who were aware of different, means of assistance, and we're like, go do a Google search on this, and you'll, hopefully you'll find, different means. So, yep. So we're in the middle of that. uh And then what there was something else big that happened this week. I don't know, but yeah, that's the big thing. Every time I talk to people, they're like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm surviving." And then they're like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I will. I'll be absolutely fine. It's just this is bizarre." It is truly bizarre. Caroline says, "Grief, my
some of the
yeah."
strangest weather LA has ever had.
Seriously, right? Like, and I'm guessing the whole reason no one figured out that whoever the construction company was that had redone the roof before we moved in, did it in not to code, was because we were in the middle of a drought for what, like 15 years or something, and now all of a sudden we're getting all these hurricanes. So, yeah. But anyway, Caroline says, grief, my heart's with you. Been there. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Cree. I really, thank you for your kind thoughts. So yeah, I'm trying to not, I always can tell when I'm really when I'm want to stress eat when I'm hungry, but it's like time periods when I don't normally eat. And I'm like, am I really hungry or am I just freaking out? Oh, I'm freaking out. Okay. So I'll drink some water and like keep myself from, eating an entire pumpkin pie or something. So, oh, um, so Rod is now one of our new editors.
Oh, good. He passed the test.
He passed the test. So I hooked him up with a brand new with an author, and they're off and running. So that's great news. Um, Caroline says, grab a chocolate bar. Works for me. I know, right? Or like one of those things of movie popcorn, but it's got to be like the tub. So anyway,
Refill.
yeah, exactly. You've got to have the free refills, man. That makes it. Margaret says, "Congratulations to Rod. Thank you. Yes, he. Honestly, I'm so happy for him. He was so incredibly excited to be joining our mad band of crazy people. So, yeah, it's awesome. I actually now remember. So someone actually asked us a question or two questions on off of the Rise. I think it was the Rise Twitter site. So the questions were, can authors today make a living off of writing, like publishing, and and how does that work in today's market? That was basically it. Now I'm gonna defer to Ben because I somehow always blather on with this one, but I think let's have you do a first cut.
I think there's some success stories out there,
Mhm.
and it comes down to first the good writing and the good story to tell, of course,
Mm.
but then it comes down to a certain dedication to it, and I don't think you can sit back and just wish it to happen.
Mm.
That'd be nice, but so I think it 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 and there's probably a certain amount of luck in there involved as well. Getting your work in the hands of the right people who from there it spreads out and your network grows and your name gets out there. So ultimately, yes, it can happen. But like the statistic Lisa was saying last week with the average book or the average profit of a book is $500, and that's all books. So I'm doing my part to keep it low. But there's that can't be the deterrent. It's sometimes the dedication is impacted by how hungry the kids are, and you've gotta go do something else because the kids are hungry. But if the time is right and the dedication is there, I think it's very possible.
Oh yeah, I agree, and honestly, a lot of times the authors that I'm good friends with, who are like it's their full-time job. Typically, what happened was their spouse or significant other, early in their career said, "Okay, I'll cut you a deal. I'll be the primary breadwinner. You focus on making this a career, and you find ways that you can increase your income." And a lot of times, Caroline asks, do you think it has a lot to do with the author's ability and desire to reach out to others and promote their work? I do think that's a part of it. I'll be honest, I think a lot of it too is at least the people I know. so this is not inclusive, right? Obviously, there's exceptions to everything. They realize what they're really strong in, and they find ways where it's business viable for them to pursue it, and then they find ways um to pursue it, right? So in other words, if they realize, hey, you know what, I'm pretty solid as a thriller writer, then they'll go out and find ways to Ben's point, right? Networks where they can publish short stories and novellas and novels. And there are presses that instead of it being you're submitting a finished product, in reality, what they're doing is they are looking for authors who are going to write to spec, right? So they put out there, and that's typically like a Disney, right? Because there's Disney publishing. It's mostly like I think middle grade and children's books, but there's plenty of publications that they're writing to a brand, or they're writing to a specific market. And I know plenty of people that said, okay, if I want to pursue being an author full time, this is at least a way to break me into um, that genre, right? And get myself established and build that network. And then from there, I can expand to my own brands, my own stories, my own, what have you. So to Ben's point, it's absolutely possible, right? It's just you got to be smart about it, you know. Now, you can still do it where you're writing something that you're passionate about, right? Like, you wake up every morning and you're just putting out whatever it is that comes to mind, or um it's just it's not you if you're writing to what you're passionate about, then that means that you're not necessarily writing to sell, right? You're writing because this is something that it means a lot to you. And but that because it, just because it means a lot to you doesn't mean it's going to mean a lot to everybody on the planet, right? And I mean, and to be honest, that's why in today's market, like if you look at the large publishing houses, that's why now you'll see, I mean, there are thousands. I forget the statistic. There's something crazy like 2,500 publishers out right now. And, a lot of small presses go out of business in the first year, if not first 2 years. But there's also quite a few that are acquired by the large publishers. And the reason they're acquired by the large publishers is because those small and mid-sized presses, they're publishing books that are groundbreaking, right? So they're publishing those books that the authors are passionate about. And the larger publishers are realizing, oh, um, this is someone that we want to, this fits our market, right? And so we want to bring them forward. So, it's not simple. You've got to really just really put your head down, really focus on it. And honestly, seriously, having that significant other who really backs you in your pursuits, it's huge, because it really enables you to stay focused on, becoming a full-time author. It doesn't mean you can't without it, right? It just means that you're probably going to have a day job, and you're writing on the side job, and maybe even another job until you break through. But it's absolutely possible. So
And I think the life of an author is more than just writing. I think of the poets who go to low residency programs for readings, and their trip is paid, their hotel is paid, and they may even get a little stipend for reading and coming in and having a class the next day after they read at night, and they hold a class about a subject the next day. but that's part of the author's life. That's any chance I get to read, the first thing I tell them is you never feel more like a writer than when you get to be a reader, and because they go hand in hand. And so it's not just locked away in the basement or the attic or underneath your no roof, writing and writing. There's other aspects to that author's life. And unless you get that one Catcher in the Rye novel and you get to disappear and live on the royalties, that suits some. And that was good for Salinger.
Well, and honestly, that's a great point. I mean, if you look at some of the biggest authors right now, like Stephen Graham Jones, right? And of course, I thought of several others that went in one ear and out the other as soon as I started talking. But they work at universities. They're professors. They work for low residency or full residency like MFA programs or undergraduate creative writing programs, because they still need health insurance, right? I mean, they may be making pretty good funds from those royalties, right? But honestly, having that steady paycheck, it can be tremendous. And to Ben's point, I think I travel more now than I ever did before. I really started pursuing like writing and editing seriously, and it's because I'm going all over the place for conferences and seminars and teaching at different workshops. I mean, I'm going to um Philadelphia next week. I'll be there from the 4th to the 14th to I'm going to be speaking at Drexel University's MFA program, right? And then after that, in November, I'm going to Hawaii. So you just don't, and oftentimes, especially when you're speaking at a conference or a workshop, if they don't pay for your travel, they're giving you some type of stipend to help cover the costs. But it's so much. Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be, right? You could just stay under your non-roof and not go anywhere. But to me, I think a lot of this, it's more about the community, right? It's more about being supportive of one another. It's about helping each other. It's about because you're connecting with the readers, you're connecting with the writers, you're connecting with actually any kind of storyteller. And I really think it's just embracing that and embracing how you can really help one another. And it's so much more, at least I feel like it's so much more fulfilling when we do that. um not that hiding in your room or basement isn't fun. Don't get me wrong, like I love getting lost in a great book, but really reaching out to others is just, it's huge. So
I think it goes back to Caroline's question about the author's ability and desire to reach out. Sometimes that reaching out is counterintuitive to a lot of writers because of the nature of their creativity. It's not their strong suit or their strong desire to do that. So it takes a little effort and a little step over the barriers that keep you from wanting to do that. But if the work is worthy, the author will follow and support it and push it, because it won't be about the author. It's rarely about the author. It's about the work. And I think some authors may forget that and say, well, it's about me. And now they don't get the Nobel Prize in Literature. They give it to Bob Dylan instead.
Yeah, how dare they? The hell? Huh?
Yeah. Was that too heavy of a Philip Roth clue?
No, not at all.
Yeah. He was mad at him, I think.
Yeah, only a lot.
Yeah.
Only a lot. It's all good.
Yeah.
So CJ says the camaraderie I get from my state's writing association keeps me going and inspired. That CJ, that's fantastic. Absolutely. Caroline says, "Who's with you, Lisa? What's her name? Helps to have a kitty to hide with." So this is Margarita, and she gets very upset if she hears me talking and she is not the center of attention. So she makes sure to get on my lap as soon as she realizes that there are others that I am interacting with. And she's also incredibly verbal. I mean, I think she's one of the most verbal cats I've ever had. I'm surprised she isn't really super verbal, like when I'm on a live stream. So don't be surprised if one day when I'm on a live stream, all of a sudden you hear her meowing. That it would be on point for her, absolutely. So, oh, thank you. Yeah, and by the way, her new thing is to bite me. It's like, but it's like a nibble, but I think it's called, you're not paying enough attention to me, so I'm gonna bite you. Okay, great. So anyway, my goodness, we're already past halfway through the hour. That's crazy town. So if you guys are watching and you are like, who the hell are these people and why should I listen to them? I don't know. But we're here. We're here on Thursdays between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're a couple of the editors of Running Wild and Rise presses, and we are here to talk to you about any old kind of questions that you may have around publishing, creative writing, the business of writing, whatever you want, actually. I mean, you're welcome to ask us whatever you want, obviously, since Caroline's been asking me about like my cat and stuff like that. So it's all good, man. And if you're watching and it is not Thursday, between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time and 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, it's all good. Just go ahead, pop your question into the comments section because we do check regularly throughout the week to see if there are any additional questions that have come forward. And then we're sure to respond to those questions, like we did about the question on, can you actually be a full-time writer in today's market? Oh, actually, there's one other point I wanted to make about that. If you look at a lot of, not a lot, but if you look at a good number of the really, really super successful authors in today's market, they actually started off as independent authors. They came up with some kind of concept. I'm thinking specifically about Scott Sigler, who he had come up with some concepts and they just got shot down left and right. And he was like, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to I think he technically he started off publishing like a chapter a week or something like that. um and I think now he actually does publish like the complete book, but he hired an editor himself. He found a great cover designer that he was really into the cover, and honestly, he sold in like the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And then I want to say he actually did get picked up um, for other titles after that. And that's actually not that uncommon. Yeah, I want to say in the last like 10 years, that's become more and more common where authors come up with concepts. They go ahead and publish those concepts, and they sell really well, and a larger house finds it and picks them up. So, there are a lot of different ways to enter the market nowadays. So you just got to figure out what's the right thing for you. So, yeah. And by the way, Ben is a full-time professor, so you know.
In business, it's not even literature.
Well, I mean, it's intertwined,
Yeah. It was, they felt sorry for me.
Somehow I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
Somehow I don't think that's true. It is it's funny because I was I can't remember what conference I was attending, but I was attending this one conference where they did a panel with full-time authors. And I thought, oh, this will be, this will be really interesting. I'm curious to see what, they talk about. And it turned out there was only one full-time author on the panel that did not have a day job.
Yeah.
All the others had day jobs because they, as one person put it, hey, I still need health insurance, right? Because I think I'm not sure if it was her or her spouse had a medical condition that she really just it didn't make sense not to. I think she worked for like the state or something like that, right? So so much of this just comes down to not only like what is it that you want, what is it that you need, and how do you get there,
Yeah.
and just figuring out what's the best path. I mean, we all want to be independently wealthy, but
Yeah, I was gonna have all my students buy my book, but then I was about to present that as the requirement to pass the course, but it was right as I was lecturing on ethics, so, so I didn't do it.
Oh my goodness, that's
It's just
great.
good thinking that way.
Mhm.
How time just works.
Yeah, there you
Everything
go.
works out.
Caroline says, day jobs, you need alternate careers sometimes. You know what? It's very true. And oftentimes people will have careers that complement, as Ben is describing, what they pursue in their writing. So, I mean, like I know actually several authors that started off in like corporate communications or journalism, and that actually gave them the I want to say work ethic, but it's more like a pattern for how to actually have regular output, and then pursue more fiction, fictional writing, versus the more corporate writing. So Caroline says, yeah, you were smart, Ben. Well, we knew that. I mean, that.
Yeah, but actually, we've got an author, Tim with NFG, started off in journalism,
Mm,
and found found his way to the MFA program in Tampa. So it was
nice.
good.
Actually, a lot of people I know, because I got my MFA from Fairfield University, and quite a few of my fellow uh, uh, students, I guess you could say, they were already either already editors, already published or being published in various forms, already journalists. This was more. What's interesting to me is I know so many people who went to MFA programs, and it was more like they knew what they were doing already. This was just almost like a confirmation that, oh, I do know how to write, you know.
Yeah. That was probably my experience with it just added some confidence, and
Mm,
so yeah, you belong, and so submit it,
mhm.
and then take your rejection and submit it again.
Well, I mean, and for me, I mean, it was that, right? It was, oh, everyone gets rejected 500 million times. Like, and honestly, the same is true with Running Wild. We have an advisory board, and now I get invited to a lot of like entrepreneur events, for possible like venture capitalists and investors and all that kind of thing. And I'll go, and you do the pitch and you talk to people and blah blah blah, and and then it's like a ghost town, right? It's like, what the heck? But I am so thankful to be invited to these events because I get to talk to other entrepreneurs or other publishers, and I find out, oh, this is normal and we're actually doing really well. Okay, all right. I don't feel so small. I don't feel like, oh, because in the back of your mind, when things aren't, just like pumping out, you think, oh, what am I doing wrong? Like, what could we be doing that we would be more successful? And then you find out, like, I literally was, there's an entrepreneur program or a small business program where they sign you up with mentors. And so they signed me up with this wonderful mentor, and she sounded amazing, right? She had a really strong like publishing background, and I thought this will be great. I'll give her our business plan and ask for her advisement and all this kind of stuff. Got on the phone with her, talked to her for about maybe an hour, and she was like, I don't think I can do anything for you, right? And I was like, well, at least go over our business plan, right? I would love your feedback on our business plan. So she agreed to that. Now, I don't know if she read our business plan or what, but within, like, I'm going to say 2 hours, if that, I got an email back from the head of the mentoring program saying, your mentor said she can't do anything for you. Like, you actually know more than she does. So we're going to try and find you another mentor. And I was like, okay, this is bizarre, right? Because she was very, 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 very successful. And, her point to me was, Lisa, a lot of this is luck. A lot of this is, yes, you've got to have tenacity. You got to keep going for it. You do have to be skilled. You do have to have, ability. But so much of this, it's timing. It's, you know, uh, finding those people who, or those organizations that not only back you, but, you know, really can help drive your, what you're doing forward. And, it was like, I'm sitting there begging for her to still read our business plan, because I'm like, still, there must be something I don't understand. And it's like, nope. So, but that's, it's the nature of the business. There's uh, I listen to Tony Robbins tapes, and he has this one thing on there where he talks about, the the superstar, I think baseball players who are in the Hall of Fame, they all failed like 70% of the time, and they're the Hall of Famers, right? So think about that. That really, if you're really pursuing those things that you're really passionate about, you're going to get rejected a lot, right? But you've just got to keep on trucking, right? You got to keep on keeping on going for it, finding different ways to continue to pursue it. And don't be closed-minded in your pursuits, because I think that's the other thing that a lot of people, not just in writing or in publishing, but in general, right? You think, well, this is how it's supposed to be, and this is how it's supposed to happen. And the reality is, it may be something completely out of left field. And if you don't allow yourself to at least try it, right, you've already taken yourself out of the game by doing that.
And the pain of rejection only lasts as long as the pleasure of acceptance.
Right?
They're both temporary, and they pass, and then you say, okay, that was nice. I got to drive on and do something else. But I've got this rejection thing figured out, though, because I give myself $5 for every rejection.
Ooh!
And for a poet, that's a lot. That's an income.
I was gonna say, that's a lot of money, man.
Yeah, it's strategic.
But it keeps you submitting.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it's like, well, I don't care, because either way I'm getting paid. Yeah.
I get rejected, not dejected.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a really smart play, right? Like, even if you're writing to spec and it gets rejected, who cares? Go find something else that's got a similar spec, adjust it a little bit if you need to, boom, send it out. So what?
Find the right place.
Yeah. I have someone, a dear friend, and he says he's got an entire file of rejected short stories and like novellas and stuff that he keeps. And it's what happens is if someone approaches him to like, can you write a short story for something or whatever, or someone passes along a submission, he'll just go back into those hundreds of different stories that he already has and finds one that's pretty close. And again, if he has to rewrite a little bit, he'll do that, and then he sends that in, and boom, he's good, right? It's smart, just keep on trucking. Caroline says, rejection is a part of the game if you're a writer. Absolutely. And you just have to want to keep getting back up when you get knocked down. And to Ben's point, just don't view it as getting knocked down, because you're not getting knocked down. Most of the time, if you're rejected, well, I can't say most. A lot of times when you're rejected, it's got nothing to do with you. It's got nothing really to do with the story. It has to do with whatever it is that they're looking for to fulfill. It might be the most gorgeous poem, short story, whatever. But if it doesn't fill certain criteria, that might be why.
Yeah.
Margaret says, Ben's thing for the $5 is a good idea, Ben. I know, right? That's why we have him here, because he's smarter than all of us.
If I keep writing, I can pay for your roof.
There you go. Woo! Yeah, this will be interesting.
Rejections.
Oh man, I'm just like, please God, can this stop? Can I finally have a complete house? That would be great.
I'm laughing with you.
Oh no, I'm laughing at me too. Believe me. It's like, oh my God. When they were like, oh yeah, guess what? I was like, oh, okay, let me figure this out. Oh. Caroline says, once there was a writer who papered their room, like using wallpaper with rejections. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've heard of a few people who do that. I'm just like, oh, well, it's rejected. I don't care. Next, and you know what the biggest lesson for me around how serious to take rejections was when I wrote a novel, and I had shopped it several times, and this is long before we started running wild, right? And all the feedback I got every time I would submit chapters to different conferences and stuff, and people were like, oh my God, I absolutely love that, it was my favorite, blah blah blah, all that. But I'd send it to agents, and I could not, I could barely get someone to respond to me, and then finally a dear friend recommended me to this one agent, and instead of the agent reading it, she gave it to her assistant, which I get. So the assistant comes back and says, well, we're rejecting it. And she gave a little bit of some very high level recommendations, and then said, if you pay me, I forget what the amount was, I'll do it an in-depth analysis. And I thought, well, she's an agent's assistant, so I'll try. It should be worth it, right? So I did, and she did, and came back with a multi-page, thing of feedback. And a bunch of the feedback, I thought, does she know creative writing? Because this doesn't make sense, right? It was clear that she wasn't familiar with certain writing techniques, and so I tend to write chapters with parallel narratives, right? So kind of what Ben was describing with Wretched. And I guess she had never seen this before and was like, you're not allowed to do this, right? And just went off on this, all these tangents, because one storyline was really magical realism, and another one was more like commercial fiction, whatever, but they were all intertwined. And And I thought, this doesn't make sense to me, right? So, but I was like, at that point, I'm like, I quit. I'm not writing anymore, right? And believe it or not, I had friends who did interventions. Like, they literally reached out to me and they were like, you are not allowed to quit. Like, you're allowed to quit temporarily, but you are not allowed to quit like forever. So, but I just want to make sure you understand. Like, here's the rules. But I don't. It breaks my heart to see that you're just giving up. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, how about this? I at least quit for a month, and then we'll revisit this. So it was like, yeah, okay, fine. Well, fast forward, I don't know how long, and I get an email from this agent's assistant, and she says, "Oh, I just read the National Book. I think it was either the Pulitzer or the National Book Award for that year, and they use all the same techniques you did. Oh, so it's okay. You're allowed, oh no. So I just never saw that before. So these things like, you're good. It's okay. And that was when I was like, okay, look, fuck this. I don't care. Like the decisions that are being made are not being made based on necessarily knowledge, right? A lot of times they're being made out of ignorance. And, I mean, I was friends with agents previously, and a lot of them were very, especially, well, I was going to especially the more senior ones, because they're in it to make a living. They have mouths to feed, right? They've got children, they have spouses, and they would even say, look, you know, I'm looking typically for titles that match the criteria that I know that the bigger houses are looking for. And so those are the ones I'm going to accept because I know I can sell it, right? So a lot of times they'll reject books that they know are solid stories, but they're rejecting them because they don't know where to sell it. So I'm telling that incredibly long story because just so you understand, like that's how it's a business, right? That's how the market works. So when you get rejected, don't get upset and, say, do what I did, right? And say, F this, I quit, all you can suck it. Maybe go off, have a couple of shots of tequila, maybe, whatever. Put your $5 aside and then just refocus and keep going, CJ says, I know of a writer who sets a rejection goal. It gets him motivated to submit. That's smart. And though he gets a lot of rejections, he also gets acceptances. That's actually a pretty cool idea because it prevents you from taking yourself out of the running from submissions that, like, and that's another, I know I'm incredibly guilty of this. I don't know, Ben, if you're guilty of this as well. But at least when I was younger, if there was something that I was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to be published by whatever, like I just wouldn't even submit because I thought I don't write at that quality, they're just going to ignore me anyway. So screw it, And then as I got older, I realized, well, that's stupid. I'm just taking myself out, I'll write something. I'll do my best at whatever that is. And if they don't respond, who cares?
And it's seeing an organization and giving them a certain amount of credibility for the reputation.
Yeah.
And letting the reputation scare you off. And that's get over that.
Yeah, exactly. Just get over that.
Yeah.
Please get over that. Caroline says ignorance, Lisa, or simply not what a person doing the rejection understands or needs, especially if they're an agent, but also an editor. Yeah, 100%. And so much of it is understanding what the actual process is that the editors, especially for large houses, have to go through in order to get a work accepted. It's hard. They've got to sell it, and that's why there's so much benefit, honestly, in finding smaller or mid-sized houses and look at their list, look at their catalog, see if these are stories that you would enjoy, right? That you feel aligned to, because it's probably they'd probably be a good family for you, you know. Ben, out of curiosity, so how Ben and I know each other is because Ben had submitted uh, a narrative poem to Running Wild back in the day. What made you submit to Running Wild 5 bajillion years ago?
Well, it was that narrative poem that was too long for poetry,
Mm,
but not in the right format for prose. And it was for the novella collection, the anthology, 3 or 4, maybe
mm,
two or three. But
mm,
it was just it's a I saw it as a good quality character based piece with an interesting take on the Cuban's perspective, because
mm.
those of you who haven't read the novella, I highly recommend it. But
Oh, I do too.
it's the
100%.
Cuban is actually a Russian, and it starts in when he's a prisoner in a prison camp in World War II, and then he's freed by the Soviet Army, and he progresses from there until he lands in Cuba, in Havana, as the reporter has met him on the day that the American embassy is opened back up in Cuba, and he starts telling his story. So it goes from
Mm,
there. But it was just the tag of this place where your stories that don't fit, and and that was good. And then I even called you or emailed you, Lisa, and said, "Are you sure?"
yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
You were like, "Are you? I don't think you've got the right one." And I was like, "No,
Yeah,
I've got the right one. I'm
yeah.
positive."
I think you said, "Yeah, you stupid idiot. We're gonna publish it."
Well,
Okay.
it's highly doubtful I said the stupid idiot part, but it is highly likely that I said, "Yeah, we're gonna publish it."
Yeah.
And then
And,
when
and
we
it goes
worked,
back to the network of that you were talking about earlier. That anthology of novellas made it into the swag bag of at the
Mhm,
Oscars that year,
that's right.
and that impressed the local press here to come and interview me. And it was
Mhm,
it's how great it is to have your work in the hands of other creatives that you don't know them. You,
mhm,
you may not even know them if they came on TV, but just to know it's out there in the world, and that like an invisible network. I think is a good way to
mhm.
say it. There's an audience you don't know. You just don't know. But
And it's funny, we've been blessed to have our books in plenty of swag bags in
yeah,
for Oscars and Grammys. And uh it's funny because as you're talking, I'm like, oh, that's why. So like so for Don't Be a Zombie, right, the self-help book I talked about, in the pitch, right, in the proposal, you include your social media, um and like the number of people you have, and blah blah blah. And one of the stats is, like, on Twitter, who do you have, like, do you have people who are friends of yours on Twitter and they have over, like, say 15,000 friends, right? So I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. I never even bothered to look. Well, I was like, oh my God, I'm friends with Paul Stanley. How am I friends with Paul Stanley? Like, I'm friends with these people who are like huge, right? And they've got, like, 101.5 million uh followers. And I mean, just like incredibly well-known musicians and actors and so on. And then I'm like, oh, like, as Ben's talking, I'm like, oh, they must have friended me around the time we had our books in those swag bags, you know, and went, you know what? Yeah, all right. I want to check these people out. So, and believe me, some of them, they actually did text me, and I thought, okay, this can't be real, right? Like I was like, this isn't a, like, this has got to be a fake, a faux Twitter uh account. Like this can't be this can't be the real Paul Stanley, right? Or this can't be the real Amanda Gorman. Like there's no way this is not real, you know. And then I go and I look it up, and I'm like, and then I realize like, oh shit, no, this is okay, you know. Don't, and then it's like, okay, don't stick your foot in your mouth.
Behave.
Time, behave, exactly, behave. So, cool. Yeah. So to Ben's point, just you don't know, right? You just got to put yourself out there. And even if it's an organization or a publisher or a magazine or whatever that, they may not be huge, but they may be getting picked up all over the place. You just may not be aware. So, oh my gosh. I'm sorry guys, we are over the hour. Thank you again, CJ, Caroline, Margaret, all of you guys. You're always just so phenomenal. And don't forget, actually now I forgot. Ben, do you remember who we said gets the Caroline. Caroline got the book of her choice.
That was 2 weeks ago because it was the new participant last week.
Oh,
Was it Janet?
was it Janet? Something like that. All right.
Yeah,
Now
it was
I'm gonna
Janet.
have to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It was or like Jennifer. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I feel awful. We'll figure it out. So and so don't forget, next week we're gonna come back. I did let her know. I think you're right. I think it was Jennifer. I did let her know
Yeah.
that she's gotten the book. So you guys, we'll figure out who asked the cleverest question, and we will see you this time next week. And I will actually be I'll be live streaming from Philadelphia.
Nice.
So yeah, woohoo! All right. So see you guys. Have an amazing week.